Okay, so just like that open circle meant that we couldn't include it, a dash line is going to mean the exact same thing. Okay, that dash line says you can get as close to the line as you want, but you can't actually include anything on that line. Okay, then also when we graphed on the number line, right, we would shade to the right or we would shade to the left because we would be including all of those values greater than or less than. Right, but now that we're on the coordinate plane, right, we don't just have right and to the left, we have above and we have below. So if it is greater than or equal to, we are going to shade above. And if it is less than or equal to, we are going to shade below. Now, the reasonings are all the same. We are literally just now turning this into something that has two variables. So we're now putting it on the coordinate plane. Good news is, okay, when we want these rules to work, just like before we had to have the variable first, here we're going to have to be solved for y. Oh, they erased my rules. And solving for y is when we are in slope-intercept form, which is a form we already know what to do in. Okay, so really all we're doing today is we're graphing in slope-intercept form, but now we're going to think about that equal sign as an inequality sign, and consider if it's dashed or solid or shaded above or below. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. So let's say we want to graph y is less than 2x minus 3. Is this solved for y? I'm seeing head nods, yes, yes, right? This is solved for y. So does that, what does that tell us our slope is then? 2. Let's use a darker color. What is our y-intercept going to be? -3. Does this inequality symbol ask us to use a solid line or a dash line? And does that inequality symbol tell us to shade above or to shade below? Below. So we're going to graph just like we always have. So where are we going to start? -3. So we're going to start at -3. And then what? I heard someone whisper it. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Now, here is the difference. We need to get clear shading above or below. It's especially going to be important as we go into our last unit of the trimester. So while I'm not going to take off points, it is a really good habit to start and get a clean line all the way across your graph. Okay, so give yourself a few points here. And then we want a dash line all the way across our graph. Now, for the majority of you in here, above and below is going to be pretty straightforward. For some of you, you might be like, what the heck? On some of the graphs, you might look at it and be like, what in the world is she talking about for above and below? If that is you, do not freak out. It has to do with your spatial reasoning. Okay, if you don't see above and below, here's the trick I tell my students. Imagine or draw a bug walking uphill. That's the key. Your bug always needs to be uphill. Okay, the dirt is below them. The sky is above them. Okay, so this area over here is below, is underneath. And some of my students are like, why is she taking time to do this? Just, okay, sometimes some of my students will need this. When we shade below, we want to find a nice happy medium here. We don't want too little. I mean, I will give you points that is correct on this test, but you will not be happy in the long run. Okay, so we don't want to shade too little. We also do not need to take every single, like, ounce of our pencil lead and make it this solid blob either. That's too much. We want a nice, happy medium.
You want to do mine.
Where we are shading all of this area all the way across. And again, this isn't so much for like this chapter and this test that I'm going to take off points. It's just going to be a good habit that's going to help you in the long run. We want to make sure we're getting all of that area, that we see all of those answers. Okay, great. So you just did what Mrs. McKinney told you to do. What does this mean? What is this a graph of?
It means all the answers
below
Are correct.
would work.
Would work for what?
Plugging in for what?
X.
For Y.
Yeah.
Is it X or is it Y?
Y.
It's Z.
Y.
Would this be an answer?
No.
Okay, so we're at least agreeing with that. Would this be an answer?
No. It's a dotted line.
It can't be equal.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's a dashed line, so no. Would this be an answer?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's in the shaded section.
It's a point that's in this.
Yeah.
And what about that point?
It has X.
Less than.
Okay, so what is this point? Mason's saying I know that this point has an X and a Y, so what is the name of this point?
It would be 6 negative.
Okay, and why does 6 negative 2 get a yes answer, that it's an answer?
Because if you plugged it back into our original.
If we plugged what back into our original thing?
If you plug the 6 into X and the negative 2.
If we plugged in both X and Y, right? Both of them. So if I plug in 6 for X and negative 2 for Y, so this is a 12 minus 3, is negative 2 less than 9?
Yeah.
Yes, I get a true statement. Okay, so anywhere that is shaded or is a solid line gives me an X and Y value that when I plug them in, I will get a true statement. Are we okay there?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at number 2. What are we going to do?
So,
Okay, why do we need to solve this for Y?
this.
So Y is not by itself.
Right, Y is not by itself, so our little memorization rules, if that's the route we're going, aren't going to work. So if we solve this for Y, what are we going to do here?
Divide by 2 of this.
What does M equal?
4.
What does B equal?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. Is this going to be a solid or a dashed line?
Solid.
Are we going to shade above or are we going to shade below?
Below.
So where are we going to start at when we graph this?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. So I'm going to go down to negative 5. And then what?
Up 4, right 1.
Up 4, right 1. Are we all okay with that, class? Up 4, right 1. Right, we set a solid line. Am I shading 1 over here or 2 over here?
Over there.
1 or 2?
2.
Two.
2's below. We're okay with that. All the way up to the line, all the way across the graph. Okay, so let's flip the paper over. We're not going to do all of these on the back, but I am still just not super convinced on some of these on the back with us, so I just keep pulling them in. Okay, so first of all, if we look at number 3 here, is this going to be solid or dashed?
Dash.
Above or below?
Below.
Apparently I really like below right now. I think we can get that part figured out. How do we graph x equals -4?
You start -4 and go.
-4 where?
On the Y.
No,
On the S.
because this is an x-intercept.
Oh.
My x-intercept is -4. Then what?
Our Y is 0.
1, 1.
Our y-intercept is not 0. There's no y-intercept, right? In standard form, this was no y-intercept.
No slope.
No slope.
Not no slope. Undefined slope.
How
So you
big?
can't graph that.
Wait.
If there's no y-intercept, I can't touch the y-axis.
Oh, yeah.
So if I can't touch the y-axis, I need a vertical line.
Yeah.
Oh, so now what do we think about above and below?
To the right.
To the right. Because because you read left to right.
I don't think that's right reasoning.
So if I do to the right, and I pick this point right here,
Uh-huh.
is 4 less than -4?
No.
No, so I can't pick over there.
You just don't shade it.
Well, there is some shading.
Never know. Get
Below the x-axis.
You just shade to the left of the
Why do you think to the left, Drew?
because that's anything less than -4.
What types of numbers are less than -4?
Negatives.
-5, -6, -7. These numbers over here. This goes back to our old rules. Less than is to the left. Skip number 4. And jump down to 5.
I'm the only one who's solved the
Oh, I'm skipping the only above.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Wait, no, I think that's
No,
it's
it
below
was,
because you
it
flip
was,
it.
Oh, because you have to flip the inequality sign we solve?
They were all below.
Yeah, they're all below.
Just seeing if you were paying attention. Okay, is this one gonna be solid or dashed?
Dash.
Above or below?
Below.
How are we gonna graph this?
Start
I don't
at 8
know.
on the y-axis.
And then do what?
Horizontal.
Horizontal line. This one below should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, can we